Hey y'all, just wanted to make a quick video on a problem that we've encountered more than once at this point, and so the team and I decided to implement multiple strategies. And what is that problem? It is trying to source specifically qualified leads by locations in, generally local businesses setting, but there are a couple other cases where it probably makes sense. One of the most difficult parts of having a customer whose ideal customer is someone who owns, let's say, like between 2 and 10 franchise locations, or a restaurant chain that has like between 5 and 30 locations, or over 30 but less than 1,000, is actually finding out the location number in general. And so I just want to show you the old way that we used to do this. Well, the old way is just using Apollo and typing in something like restaurants with more than one. But okay, so I should say this is new, right? This is a new Apollo feature. I'm just going to show you why it just doesn't make sense with more than one location but less than 100. And what I'm getting at is like agentic search. When is agentic search good, and when does it not fit what we're doing? And I have seen people get really excited about agentic search. So I just want to go over maybe some of the limitations of it and how we're getting around that. So like, look, you're going to see from Paul's like, what do you mean, locations? You can only filter by number of employees or the industry specific. So it's got nothing here. And what we would have to do is we just have to go to the industry of restaurants, and then we might qualify by employees as like as a proxy. But another problem that we've seen in general, and I just want to get on my grandstand for a second about Apollo, is that every company and every lead that is on Apollo gets absolutely slammed by emails, right? And so what my team has been trying to do is how do we find all the businesses, number one, that are not on Apollo, because Apollo used to be basically our first choice when it came to like the initial target area market map, or target area map. I'm losing my mind today. And we found that it's sort of degraded over time, both in cost and now it's basically impossible to just, like you used to do, find a website and scrape Apollo. It's constantly, they're really fighting hard against this now. I don't even know what's happening here. This is an old thing. Anyways, so what we would do is we just download this list, and it would take a long time to qualify it down in Clay, right? What we would do, I think I have a Clay table for this somewhere, is we would basically ask Claygent, like, how many restaurants do you think this company has, or how many locations do you think this company has? And the problem with that is that it's going to be relying on a bunch of information, old information, new information spread out everywhere, and it's basically just going to guess. Like, there's no way that AI is going to be able to go and scrape all this stuff. So what's another option? Probably the mid-range option that I would recommend to most people trying to pull, let's say, barbershops with more than one location, or what's another example? Like construction companies who operate in at least 2 cities or 2 counties or something like that. You could try sorry, my brain is on Apollo. You could try Exa for this, exa.ai, websets.exa.ai specifically. And so I had pretty good results with this. So we went and found quick serve restaurants, QSR, with 5 to 20 locations only in the USA, right? And so here's the operator, the columns that it chose. Quick serve restaurant has 5 to 20 locations and is within the USA, right? And it is doing stuff. It is finding restaurants that qualify. I think the location, the more references it has, the better. So like Exa can organize all this, which is really nice. But, and a big but here, is that I know that there are more than 472 matches. What I'm going to have to keep doing is sending Exa over and over. And if you have the basic plan of Exa, you can only find 100 results. So you're going to have to download sheet after sheet after sheet. to make this work and then collate them into one thing. So we analyzed 4,000 results. I had this basically running overnight, and we only found 472 matches, which is probably good for the average person. But since I'm running a GTM or lead gen agency, I want to get a little bit more granular. So, summary here: don't use Apollo. If you need to, use Exa, and then I'm going to go over a third solution. But really quick here before we move on, going over some of the downsides of Exa. Number one, you're going to have to dedupe. And number two, you're wasting credits on multiple locations. So this is kind of like a recursive problem here. You're asking Exa to find restaurants with multiple locations, and so it's going to pull the restaurants with more than one location twice, right? I think you understand what I'm trying to say there. So like we have this happen multiple times where, I don't know, it's like a taco restaurant, Taco Mas or something like that. Taco y Mas, right? It's pulling location after location after location. And yes, it's within our ICP, but it's taking my credits, and Exa's not cheap. So Exa costs between like $149 and like $450 or something like that. So it's actually like a pretty good replacement for Apollo for most companies. I would say that what it doesn't act as is like just a big database of leads, so that like you can be reasonably confident in your target area mapping, right? So Apollo used to be the solution for that. I think that increasingly it's becoming harder to do that, and we still need to do it as an agency, but we're not going to pay the thousands of dollars or whatever it would take to do with Apollo the legit way. And so yeah, I think Exa is great. Basically, I don't want to crap talk Exa at all. I think it's amazing. So what are we doing here? What is the alternative, right? I think that Stellar Growth has been, like, we've been working with local business ICP clients for a long time now, and doing really, really good results. So number one, sneak a little ad in here. If you are a marketing agency or SaaS company working with local businesses, I think we're great at this. So what we have been doing over the last week is basically pulling every single restaurant in the country from a RapidAPI scrape from one of our APIs that we use called Maps Data. And I think this is kind of public knowledge now that if you're using something other than Maps Data or Serper to find local business ICP, you're silly, right? That's one thing you can take out of this. You should absolutely be doing that, and then scraping the website using ClayJIT. And that's good for like 90% of people. But we're an agency. Like I said, we need to find the entire TAM. And so we're pulling every single restaurant in the entire country in from Google Maps. It's probably like 1 million plus businesses, probably a little bit more than that actually. I think we have like 700,000 so far. Okay, what are we doing to solve our qualification issue? We are then looking up the same restaurant name within this database to give a count. And so by the end of this, we will not only have like all the locations and potential different owners, but we'll also have the total restaurant count for each one of these businesses because we're using Supabase. I think I mentioned Supabase. We're using Supabase as the lead lookup, and we're basically treating it as a giant database because Clay cannot handle this, right? And so increasingly in my business, while we still use Clay, and I think it's a great tool, there has been a need to have certain custom solutions, especially for certain customers. If we want to say with like 90-95% certainty that we've mapped the whole TAM, like we need to do something like this. And if we do this up front, then we can like basically ensure that we're not going to have to go back and do this over and over and over again, which in the past is what we'd have to do with D7, Outscraper, or even with Exa. So that's really cool. Yeah, just to summarize, I think that Apollo, like there's almost no reason you should use it. Maybe for like the initial 50% of your TAM pool. If you have, I don't know. I think that even enterprise companies should be using Exa instead, or SalesNav. Or you should be building something like a Supabase database like this. But I think the middle ground for these really complicated qualification criteria is exa, but you have to check. You have to check the facts that exa looked up, and you have to deal with some of the duplication and inaccuracies that you would deal with in other lead platforms. But it's such good value for the average person who isn't like a GTM Supabase wizard like my team has. So yeah, I recommend that. I think that I'm really excited to show exactly how we set this up soon. To give you a summary, basically we use the API to push all of the Google Maps data from RapidAPI to the Supabase, and that's basically it. Then what we'll do is do the lookups, then we'll push it back into Clay into a condensed list so that we don't basically, we're not going to be running on the same rows more than once. So I hope I explained that well. That is pretty cool. It certainly gets me excited. I think that within the next 3 months or so, the way we do this for any client is going to be so proceduralized, and we'll have such good lookups, and we'll basically contain every single business within the country for our clients' ICPs, that it's going to be such a smooth operating system. We can say confidently, hey, we mapped your TAM. So I hope you guys found it interesting. I think that this is the only way to be 100% certain when you've got location-based qualification. Thanks.